am a SheJumps board member. I was a volunteer, an ambassador for a long time, and now I'm a board member, and I'm your moderator for tonight's discussion. And I just want to give a quick plug about SheJumps. So if you don't already know, which I assume you do, SheJumps' mission is to increase participation of girls and women in outdoor activities. And SheJumps is a nonprofit, which means we rely on donations and grants and other ways of keeping programs alive. And I can tell you right now, things at SheJumps are very exciting, and we've been in hibernation during COVID and we've taken everything online, but watch out when things go back live, like we are coming at you to a town near you. So if you feel like really inspired after this, you want to make a donation, go to shejumps.org. We will take your money. And now for our panel. So I just wanted to say, like, I'm really excited for this discussion tonight. I feel like a lot of us who have skied at ski resorts are like sort of impressed by and totally oblivious to the massive amount of work that goes on to keep resorts open and safe and fun. And we're going to get to hear about some of the ins and outs. And if you're here looking for how you're going to get in as a ski patroller, great. We're going to have some great ideas for you. And if you already are a ski patroller and you're looking for support, we have that too. So we're gonna start just with intros. We're just gonna go around and all of these lovelies are gonna share a little bit about themselves. So, well, why don't you start us off?
Hello, everyone. Very, very honored to be a part of this tonight. I'm Laltone. I am a patroller at Squaw Valley in Lake Tahoe, California, and do a little bit of guiding, helicopter ski guiding in Alaska as well. But stoked to spend the next hour with all of y'all.
Awesome. Olivia?
Hi, everyone. My name's Olivia, and I am a ski patrol at Fernie Alpine Resort in Fernie, BC, Canada. Originally from Calgary, Alberta. Yeah, I'm super excited to be a part of this, and I promise as soon as the borders open, you guys are all invited to come up and crash on my couch.
I was just writing that question in the Q&A, so thanks for addressing it. Rachel?
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm a ski patroller at Big Sky Resort in Big Sky, Montana, and I am happy to be here. I've been doing it for about 8 years now.
Kari?
I'm Kari. I am the patrol director at Diamond Peak in Incline Village, Nevada, which is located in North Lake Tahoe. And yeah, really honored to be with these lovely ladies tonight.
Robin, and then Becca.
Hey everybody, I'm Robin. I work at Crystal Mountain, which is a couple hours outside of Seattle, and I'm a ski patroller and avalanche forecaster.
And my name is Becca Fenander, and I work on the Alta Ski Patrol in Alta, Utah. And I'm pretty tired because I've just worked the last 7. We had a 100-inch cycle over the last 7 days with about 7 inches of water. And I haven't been home in 4 days.
Wow, so that's a great segue. Becca, everybody else, what's your favorite thing about being a patroller? Anybody's welcome to chime in.
Outer laughing.
Yeah, you get to ski every day and just blow shit up. It's pretty cool.
The friendship, the family that you find in ski patrolling is by far my favorite part, the community.
Sounds corny, but it's really nice being able to help people, even if it's just helping them click back into their skis. You're making a big difference in their day.
Yeah, I love being able to take someone's worst day of skiing and snowboarding of their entire life and try to make it just a little bit better.
I've always loved the opportunity to be able to get to know a piece of Mother Nature, you know, like a mountain range, a valley, and get to know it so intimately and to see it season after season and see how things fill in differently, you know, and to be able to be up on the hill and in the mountains before anybody gets out there, or for those beautiful sunsets at sweep, when you're kind of coming down the hill at the end of the day and it's all quiet, but to be able to be outside all the time for your job is pretty amazing.
Okay, now I want to be a ski patroller. So how about some of you tell us how you got there? What's the path you take?
So my path was a little bit roundabout to get there. I went to college straight out of high school to compete in cross country, and decided to get my degree in math and a minor in kinesiology, and then proceeded to get my teaching credential in math and PE. And during my student teaching, I enjoyed it, but I didn't want to get stuck inside or in the interesting world of public education. So I actually ended up moving to Yosemite to be a lifeguard at the pool. So working at a pool in a national park that's 100 yards away from a river is a really interesting experience. But I met a lot of people who followed their passion and were working in their passion. And so it inspired me to try to figure out what I wanted to do next. So of course I started a master's degree program in integrated science, technology, engineering, mathematics education with a focus in science and environmental education. And during that program, I got my woofer to become a guide in Yosemite, so I could be a hiking and backpacking guide there. And halfway through the course, I fell in love with emergency medicine, enrolled in an EMT class because I was like, well, I can be a ski patroller in the winter and guide in the summer, at least for a few years after college. And then it was after my second year of patrol that I realized that it was going to be the rest of my career that I would be in that. So 7 years of formal education to use my EMT and be a ski patroller.
That's an awesome story, Kari. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, Kari, my story was similar to yours in some ways, but a little bit different in others. I also went to get my undergraduate education. I moved up to Washington and went to school and finished school and kind of accidentally fell into a career in mountain guiding. During the summer, I'm a mountain guide on Rainier, and didn't think that I was a strong enough skier to be a ski patroller. I didn't really know that being a ski patroller could be a paid profession. And once I learned that it was, I assumed that there was no way that I was good enough to be a ski patroller. And so I tried out for a volunteer patrol just to kind of see if maybe somebody would let me in. And they were like, what are you talking about? You're fine. Like, you can ski everywhere on the mountain. You can make turns. Like, you're absolutely adequate to be a ski patroller. And I applied, and last minute they hired me, and I ended up falling into this career that I didn't even know existed.
I moved to Big Sky when I was 18, and I started off actually working for ski school, and it was fun, and I love working with kids, but it just wasn't clicking for me. And so the season after that, I applied to be a ski patroller, didn't get the job. And then the season after that one, I ended up getting a position with the ski patrol, and I immediately knew that it was exactly where I needed to be and what I wanted to be doing. I always knew that it was going to be on skis, but it really clicked once I met the people that were the same kind of weird as me.
That's awesome. So I guess I wonder, Robin, in particular, you highlighted this, like, am I good enough? Like, am I, cut out for this? Can I, make the grade? So I wonder if we could share any stories or thoughts about like times that you felt intimidated, and then maybe times when you haven't, like maybe that hasn't been your experience and you've always felt welcome. I would just love to hear from some of you about that.
Yeah, I think skiing in a uniform can feel a little bit intimidating. I mean, you definitely feel like everybody's watching you, and everybody loves to, see a ski patroller fall. Ski patrollers shouldn't fall or whatever. And so psyching myself up to actually be a ski patroller was kind of the hardest part of getting into the industry for me. And once I actually showed up, I realized not only was I absolutely an adequate skier, but that I was a better skier than some people and worse skier than others. And at the end of the day, being the best skier on the mountain wasn't what it was about. It was about decision making and risk management and being able to, reach out to people and help people.
Yeah, and working hard, right? I feel like that's the biggest judgment is like, how hard of a worker are you? That's the standard.
I feel like stepping into the role of a ski patroller, I didn't really know too much about patrolling other than, you do first aid, you kind of ski around all day. I didn't really know the ins and outs of the job. And then, during your job interview, you start hearing, oh, you have to handle explosives, and oh, you have to have pretty strong rope skills, and oh, this and that. And you kind of starts to build, and it's so intimidating. Like, oh my God, there's no way I could ever learn all that in my first, second, third year. Turns out they don't expect you to, but you definitely can work up to having all these skills. And but just stepping into the role was very intimidating. And of course, again, there's 5 women and 45 men. You're like, oh my God, like, can I ski as fast as them? Am I going to be as strong? Like, is this a problem? And no, absolutely not a problem.
Yeah, when I got into it, I had full confidence in myself. I was like, I know I'm gonna be a really strong patroller, because everything that the profession encompasses are all of my passions. And so what I found the challenge was convincing everyone else that I could do it, at 5'4" and a female. And so I just worked hard every single day. And I feel like as a female, especially in it, you can't have a day that you're off, because then it, like, at least in my head, I was like, if I have an off day, it proves that I don't belong to all of them who are doubting me. And so I would just show up 100% every single day. And even when I moved to Diamond Peak at the beginning of last season, the guys who had been there for a long time, I heard they were all talking like, we don't even know if she can ski or she can pull a toboggan. And I had been patrolling for 7 years. And it's like, how does a patroller be in there for 7 years and not know how to pull a toboggan? Of course I know how to pull a toboggan. And so one of the biggest struggles was convincing everyone else to have the confidence in me that I had in myself.
I think mine was kind of the opposite. Like, I am my own like worst critic. And so like my own personal skepticism was something that I had to break through like tremendously. And I still work on constantly is standing by my decisions and standing by my judgment and not reflecting and like terrorizing myself over it, because like the belief was there in me before I even had the courage to speak up for myself. My like largest intimidation by and large when I first showed up was social intimidation. I had never been around that many people that got along so well in my life, and trying to like edge my way into that was like, yeah, it was pretty terrifying.
And I think on another level of kind of maybe intimidation or proving yourself, you have to deal with what not only other patrollers think of you and what you think of you, but what the skiing and riding public thinks of you. I've definitely shown up on scene with a toboggan to an injury in steep terrain, and you just see your patient getting kind of like bug eyes of like, you're the one pulling the toboggan, and you're like, yeah, I'm the one pulling the toboggan, get in, do you want to ride or not? But kind of not letting that get you down, the initial doubts that people might have when they see you as a woman or just a more petite person in general showing up and providing the transportation.
Robin, I get the same thing in the heli guide world, where you'll go to meet your clients for the day and you see their face drop when the 5'2", 120-pound guide comes. They're like, dude, we got the short straw, And I've always loved it as a challenge to just change their mind. Like, nope, I got this. We're going to have a great day. And sure enough, by the end of the toboggan run, you get them to the clinic, or, by the end of a heli ski day, they're sold, they're all in. So it's almost like an awesome challenge. And I kind of welcome it whenever you bump up against it. You're like, okay, this is going to be fun. Kari, it sounds like that's what it was in the workplace for you. Just, like, okay, yeah, I get to show you what I can do,
Yeah, absolutely. And once I showed my coworkers what to do, it's some of the scenes I would show up and these big dudes would turn to me and be like, hey, can you take the sled, Kari? And the patient would kind of look at them And I'd be like, oh, sure. And they're like, wait, you're not going to take it? And the patrollers would be like, no, believe us. Like, she's the best skier on the mountain. You want her to take it. Like, trust us. And so that support ended up following that hard work to prove the skills that I knew I had.
A lot of the guys that I work with call it defending my honor. When they show up and they're like, this guy has doubts, she's got it. Like, you're going to go take this right now.
Another situation that comes to mind when you're talking about when you show up on a scene and people don't expect you to be the one dealing with that situation is when there's an altercation on the mountain. And this year in particular, we've had some rude people in our lift lines not wanting to wear masks. And so the skier services folks will call the ski patrol if they need backup. And when someone like me shows up, I don't want to make sweeping generalizations, but a lot of times when men are dealing with men, they escalate each other and the situation gets a little bit more intense. And so they might have been surprised to see me show up, but they also were probably surprised at how I dealt with the situation and actually communicated with everyone involved and de-escalated the situation. So I think that everyone comes away from it feeling educated rather than that idea of punishment or that there's a winner and a loser.
That's a great, yeah, go for it, Lil.
Becca, would you mind telling your story about the intimidation thing as well?
Sure.
It was such a great one. I had the same experience. That's why I was like, yes.
Yeah, there's not very much turnover on the ski patrol at Alta. And every ski patrol is traditionally populated with men. I worked at a lodge before I decided that I wanted to spend more time in Alta and do something different than serve food or check people in and out. And so I skied all the time and knew everyone on the mountain, knew the mountain really well, and would talk to a patroller here and there, but had to get the courage up inside myself to walk into the top shack to show up for sweep, because that's how you show that you're interested in being a ski patroller. And the top shack at that point was this old building that was on metal stilts right up at the top of the old Germania chairlift, and metal stairs going up to the door. There's a double door, no windows, no nothing. So you walked up the stairs and they could hear you coming. They knew you were coming. They could see you down below out the windows. And so you had about, 30 seconds to a minute where they knew you were coming, and you had to open that door and walk in. You didn't know what you're walking into. But I think one of the things to remember is that ski patrollers are just people. And they're people who work hard and play hard. And they're the tightest family outside your biological family that you'll ever know.
That's awesome. I love that. And I feel like you're kind of all getting towards this other thing that I think is really important for us to chat about tonight, which is like mentorship and allyship and that sense of community. And if anybody was in our panel on professionals in avalanche education, we talked about this concept of the frientor and how like you can have somebody who is both a friend and a mentor, and like it doesn't have to be, one person way up here. But I'm sure there's a lot of people in the audience tonight who are interested in like, how do you find a mentor? What have been your positive experiences with mentors? If somebody's looking for a mentor, what's the right thing to do? Should you bake them a cake? Like, what's the strategy? So love to hear your thoughts on that. Lel, yeah, jump in.
I have so much gratitude for the few mentors that I've had in my life. And, I started patrolling in 94, 95, and then, believe it or not, did a year patrolling back east when I was 19. So it's been a long time. And starting at that time, there were not a lot of other female patrollers. In fact, the year that I came on, we had two other ladies, super solid, amazing women, but there weren't a lot of ladies. And so all of my mentors, whether it be as an avalanche forecaster or a guide or a patroller, have all been men, and they've been incredible. And it kind of, for me, happened organically. I didn't make a cake, but you meet certain people. I think mentors, there's natural mentors, and then there's just non-mentors, that don't have the bandwidth for it. And so I think it's up to everybody out there, when you meet somebody that is a natural mentor, you just kind of latch on to them, and ask them questions, and stand behind them. And when people see an interest, and see motivation and see passion, they want to help feed that. And so our avalanche forecaster Russ Johnson got me teaching avalanche courses with him. It was incredible, and when he left, he offered me his position at Squaw, which I didn't feel I deserved at the time. But anyways, grabbing those mentors when you come across them organically, and I think you guys all know the people that just have it in them or don't. So recognizing those folks and grabbing a hold of them. But I'm so grateful for all of my mentors, and most of them happen to be men in my field. And I felt huge support from that, which was awesome.
Yeah, I've been fortunate where my mentors have also come really naturally. When I first started patrolling, one of the women who had been the patrol director where I started was a good family friend, and her husband and my mom were pro patrollers together as well. And so she really saw in me the future I had in the profession, as well as our assistant director at the time. And they both naturally just kind of lifted me up and mentored me through it, where even when I changed locations, I would still call this woman Donna and be like, Donna, this is what's happening, like I need your advice. And she was always really happy to give it. And one of the nicest things she's ever said is if she could do things all over again, she would be doing what I was doing, because she went through the Forest Service before she became management in patrol. And so it was people believing in me and lifting me up that have helped me get to where I'm at. And then now my manager, which is the mountain operations manager, is a huge mentor to me. And he's incredible, where he tells me all the time, he's like, you're the best person for this job. And he really makes sure to be like, I didn't hire you because it's cool to hire women. I hired you because you're the best person for this job. And our whole mountain operations management team gives me an equal voice. And that's through his leadership too. And so those natural mentors are really important. And then I'm forming a nonprofit organization called Women of Patrol, with the goal, because there isn't a lot of female mentors out there, of creating a space to connect female mentors to people who are interested in joining in patrol and people who are current in it, to help build those connections between the women, because a lot of us have been the token female on our patrols, and it's really awesome to connect with other women. So I'm trying to build that space for people.
As far as mentorship goes, I think that was like one of the most intimidating things in like edging into ski patrolling. I kind of mentioned like the social intimidation initially, but really the way that I ended up finding, it all started off with one person. It was this guy named Noah. And I happened to be really lucky that I approached him because he had been mentored for many years, and he was really feeling like this need to kind of pass along all of these lessons that he had been learning on the hill over the last, like 12 years that he had been been ski patrolling now 20. And really, I got lucky. I chanced it. I approached him in the locker room and asked him if he wanted to go skiing with me on the hill on an off day the next day. And he said yes. And we skied all day with one another and talked about ski patrolling. And really, like, the connection that I made where I was like, I'm really going to be able to learn underneath this person's tutelage is I knew that he would never judge me for mistakes. And that was the biggest thing, was like just finding the one person that I could openly admit that I, was feeling uncomfortable or I blew it, in retrospect, and that he could help me close the feedback loop and give me like a really, really realistic perspective of ski patrolling. Because I think that there's like this really over idealistic version of ourselves as patrollers. And then there's like reality, right? Especially when you're first starting out, with how romanticized this job can be, and just finding the one person that can like put you in check and line you out with exactly like where you need to be at that moment is like really the most important thing. It was for me.
I was about to say that I don't ever felt like I've had a mentor since I've started. I mean, I'm only in my 5th season, and so maybe later on in my career I'll find someone. But the more I hear you guys talk, the more I realize actually that's wrong. And I guess there's just different people that I pulled different aspects of, I guess, menteeship from, and who have just helped me with different parts of my career and life and just other things. But yeah, so in Fernie, we're really trying to ramp up the mentorship program and make it a bit more formal. And through a bit of research and discussion, we've kind of decided that if you really do want to find a mentor, it's totally fine to make it formal, go up to someone and say, hey, like, I would like to have you as my mentor. How do you feel about taking me on as a mentee? And then maybe come up with 3 big points or 3 things that you really want to work on in a season, and then just have that formal relationship. It might be easier to find a mentor that way instead of just having one fall into your lap almost. I don't know, it's just different for different people, but for me, that's kind of, I think, a better way to find someone that I'd be more in tune with.
That's awesome. I'm wondering if there's a really great question of like, what's the daily schedule? What's life like for a ski patroller? Becca, I'm like, you can take a nap or you could answer this question. But and I think, I don't remember who else is like, you just got home, Rachel, right? So
We're in it right now too.
yeah, right. So I wonder if you can just speak to some of that, like what's it like to be a patroller actually? And yeah, go for it.
The days are long, but we like long days. Being out in the weather, just being outside in general makes me tick. So someone else mentioned earlier too, like the sunrises and the sunsets. There's something incredibly special about that early December light out on the mountain. So I guess our regular days are 9 hours long. If we come in for an early morning, it could be 10 or 11 hours. And then if you have a late rescue or something weird going on with a medical, it could be up to 12 hours long. Up in Alta, we have a really tricky road situation. A lot of slide paths, and sometimes the road closes in a storm. And so the essential personnel stay up the canyon so we can continue doing control work in the ski area. And sometimes if the lodge guests and locals are lucky, we'll be able to open what's called interlodge, where everyone has to stay indoors. And the locals get to ski, even though the people from the valley can't drive up to the ski resort. So we were able to offer that to them today. It was pretty special. The days that we live for are yesterday and the day before. The ski area didn't open at all, but we ran routes and we did ski a little bit of powder.
My days lately, I wake up at 4:30 in the morning. We work 4 10 to 12-hour shifts with a 5th day route morning after that. We've been having a season of drought and then storm, and there's really no in between. It's been like bare bones, really hard, scouring winds, losing all the snow, and then surviving through the storms and doing route every single morning. Yeah, so we probably have, all of us probably have a really similar schedule. I wake up in the morning, do my morning routine, commute out to work, and first thing that we do is we go out on route. So for listeners, we do avalanche hazard mitigation on our avalanche paths. We have an enormous avalanche problem at Big Sky. We are a continental snowpack, so you can imagine, especially with the kind of terrain that we have. So we go and poke around and use explosives, and we use a lot of them at Big Sky. And then after that, it's like this meeting of the minds where everyone gets together and we all discuss what we found around the mountain. And then we get to work to start opening things. And from there, we open up terrain, which is usually, a huge effort, especially when it's snowing a lot, and like lately. And then from there, we work on infrastructure and we respond to emergencies. And at the end of the day, we wrap it all up in one pretty little bow and rinse, wash, and repeat, and get ready to solve the day's problems the next day, which could look totally the same or completely different.
Yep, sounds pretty similar. Pepper the day with a bunch of first aid calls, finding lost gear, lost children, dealing with people who won't wear masks, pretty much anything. The other day, one of our patrollers had to help someone get a dog that was stuck in a culvert out of the culvert, and you just do whatever. So yeah, sounds pretty similar.
Yeah, and one thing that's so cool about it is every day is different. Like no 2 days of ski patrolling has ever looked the same for me, which makes it really exciting driving to work of like, I wonder what's going to happen today. And you get to see some really interesting things, whether it's injuries or just really phenomenal displays of stupidity.
I'm sure there's a lot of that.
Especially this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anyone else feel like there have been people that are skiing like they have nothing to live for out there?
Absolutely.
They come out of quarantine and you're like, what have you been doing?
Of like more crazy variety than any other year, it feels like. I kind of expected this year to be a little bit quieter, just like with caps on reservations and fewer people allowed at the ski resort at any given time. But it feels like the people that are there are going all out, like crazy people ready to break themselves off.
Yeah, we've had lots of fights. We had some guests steal a ticket scanner from a lift line this year because that's valuable.
Souvenir, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Can some of y'all talk about the risks of being a patroller?
Yeah, I mean, there's the obvious risks associated with throwing bombs and doing avalanche control work, and some of my job involves climbing trees to maintain our bomb trams that we use, and nothing is more dangerous than climbing trees in Alpine ski boots. It's just a horrible idea. But there's also probably less obvious, less exciting risks associated with just how hard skiing can be on your body when you're doing it 10 hours a day, 5 days a week. And so I do really want to encourage people who are thinking about getting into patrol or who are newer to patrolling to listen to your body and take care of yourself. It will change your life if you blow out your knee just because you weren't taking enough days off, you weren't doing that preseason cross training to support your joints. And I've seen a lot of patrollers that I work with definitely get kind of weighed down by accumulating chronic injuries. So take care of yourself, be good to your body.
Well, go for it. I'm pointing because you're right there for me, but nobody else knows that.
Hey. And I know Becca knows this person that I'm going to speak of, because he's at Alta and he's written some really good articles about it and done some great talks. And I actually was having an offline discussion with a really great girlfriend of mine, who is now the mountain manager at Mount Bachelor, my friend Betsy. She's amazing. Was chatting with her just a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about the whole idea of post-traumatic stress in the workplace. And, I think the one thing that we never quite think about in the workplace is that if you stick around long enough, you're going to see some stuff. And a lot of that stuff is not going to be pretty, and it's going to be really painful emotionally, and it's going to leave some scars. And I'll never forget my first year patrolling at Sunday River. I was 19 years old, and the owner's nephew was a year younger than I was, and I was the first on scene to a really terrible accident where he had hit a tree, multi-casualty incident. And, it was really, really hard. And, Betsy, as a mountain manager, because they just had a pretty terrible accident in the last month, has been dealing with her patrollers and trying to help them through the process. But I think something to keep in mind is that there will be things that are really difficult emotionally. And so it's definitely something, some people are cut out for it and some aren't. And sometimes you don't know if you're actually cut out for it until you get to that spot. But I think that's one of the risks too, is that it's a dangerous sport and we're picking a lot of people up in dangerous conditions. And so anyways, that would be my quick one on that.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing, is just the compounding as well. So even if it's not that fatality that you're responding to, it's going to these calls day in and day out that can compound that trauma as well. And I see that's where the value of having women on staff, and in my position as a female leader, I think it's really beneficial for the patrol as a whole, because it creates a more open environment. And so even I visited my last place of employment over the summer, and there was a really heavy call that my employees ran that day, and I didn't run it with them because I don't work there anymore. But every single one of the guys came up to me at one point that day and said, "I'm really glad you're here today," and gave me a hug and cried. And I feel like that's a value of having a female in a leadership position on a patrol, is to create that space for everybody to be open and talk about it, instead of just sucking it up and drinking beers, and that's how you deal with it. And there's also an organization called the First Responder Alliance that's working on ski patrol specific PTSD help that they can give to resorts. And it's literally a template that management doesn't have to create themselves, but they can use to help the staff.
I don't know if you ladies know this too, but just I'll pass this along, that Johns Hopkins on Coursera has a free course that you can take on psychological first aid that has been super awesome. I took it when we first all got locked down, and it's been awesome this season.
Good. I think the practice of debriefing after big incidents is becoming more and more common as an industry. Everybody's kind of recognizing the psychological toll that first responder PTSD can take. And so I've definitely seen the patrol that I work at kind of lean more into post-incident or post-accident debriefs, and giving people the opportunity and space to actually sit down together and talk about what happened, what we learned, what we felt, which is heartening in the industry.
I noticed that when we had bigger accidents, my crew was still not being super open. So I got in the habit every single day. At the end of the day, our crew gets together and I just have the question, what did you learn today? And so on the slow days, it's really funny the things they come up with to what they learned too. But getting used to having those conversations every day also opens the floor to be more open when it is a bigger day.
A couple of years ago, our patrol directors brought this course to our training, and it was called The Road to Mental Readiness. And it's a course that's offered, I guess, to first responders, policemen and EMTs, that kind of thing. And I thought it was important for us to be able to talk about our mental health and how we can get worn down physically, but also mentally, especially after fatalities or just any sort of traumatic incident. And then sadly, the following year, we lost a patroller to suicide. And that really sparked, and he was someone that had worked with us for 10 years, and it really hit our entire team. It was pretty heavy. And so we started a peer support program, and we've really tried to ramp up our comfort level with talking about our mental health. And it's something that everyone on our patrol team has kind of pledged that we're going to be okay to talk to each other about it. If you're feeling you're having a great day, you're having a bad day, like it's just something we just no judgment. And I've noticed a change for sure over the past 4 years about the way we deal with mental health. And it's been super awesome, and I have to commend our directors for it. It's a really great initiative, and it's something that I think should definitely be just on the forefront of everyone's training, and your mind, just chatting after work about it. It's pretty cool.
We at Alta had a similar situation. One of our patrollers committed suicide several years ago. And I was kind of disappointed at how our management dealt with it. So on the other flip side of things, turned out that we started a living memorial program. So each year, several patrollers plan an event for the entire patrol and extended patrol to participate in an activity that celebrates this patroller's life. It can have service aspects, but really opens the forum to talk about feelings. And through this process, I got to become more familiar with the work of Brené Brown. And I've been able to bring that into our patrol. And after starting this living memorial, I actually was instrumental in starting a nonprofit for our ski patrol. It's called Amazing Ski and Snow People. And our mission is to support the physical, social, and mental health, education, and infrastructure needs of the ski patrol community. And this is our second year, and I actually stepped down off the board to promote board growth. But it's going to be an amazing organization.
I have to say I'm a clinical psychologist by training. So of course this conversation is obviously near and dear to my heart, but it also just brings me great sort of ease that this is happening for ski patrollers who are at such high risk of trauma and developing, stress injuries in their brain. And I think the thing I just want to highlight for you all on the panel, just to hold up that mirror, as I think some of you spoke to in the beginning, is I think sometimes in your head, like Rachel said, you can think oh, am I good enough? Am I enough for this, right? And instead hearing what you all are bringing to your patrols, and that you are actually enriching your community's experience. You have these gifts, even if it's just the nature of your identifying as female, right? Or if it's that you were socialized to be okay crying, that you're really contributing to your teams as well. And I feel like that's a valuable thing I just want to make sure to highlight. So we're going to leave a, go for it. Yeah.
Just a little aside to that. It was an experience that I had last year. Our patrol director brought in a former female ski patroller who now works for the BLM, and she was talking about making your career in a man's world. And I came away from the presentation a little bit, I was questioning it, because she was emphasizing sort of conforming to the man's world. And in my heart, all of us know so well how to spend time in a room full of men. And I don't think we need to practice that more, but I think what we need to do is teach men how to spend time in a room full of women.
I second that. Yeah. Oh, and the crowd goes wild over in the chat if you're not following. So I guess the last question I want to loft, and then we're going to take any other questions from the audience if you want to pop them in the Q&A. So if we miss something in the chat because it's just flying through, then put them in the Q&A. But what's the future of ski patrolling?
The future of ski patrolling starts with people who are paid like professionals. I think that we'll see people that are sticking around, less of a turnover rate. You know, we have a huge ski patrol and we have, you know, an attrition of about 10% every year, which adds up. And having wages that match the inflation of ski towns. So having things like insurance, livable wages, having permanent seasonal positions extended to us all across the board. I think that's a big part of the future of ski patrolling, because this is just getting more and more serious. More people are skiing every single day. I'm sure that we can all attest to that.
And I think maybe it doesn't sound super flashy and glamorous, but a big part of ski patrolling is lawsuit prevention. You know, it is taking steps to prevent people from getting hurt in a way that changes their life and forces them to file a lawsuit to pay for their health care. And so recognizing that ski patrolling is not the same thing that it was 20 or 30 years ago. It really is a serious job that encompasses a lot of different diverse aspects that affect the well-being of the ski resort as a business, should translate to more livable wages and a more sustainable career path.
You know, wages across the board. I mean, everyone knows how expensive it is to live in a ski town, and I don't think there's a single patroller on the planet that would feel like their wage matches, you know, maybe the skill set that they possess and just even cost of living. And yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with the future is getting to be looked at as the professionals we are. Like, yeah, we have just as much fun as we play hard. And it is a fun job, but we're all professionals, and the skill set that's required for the position is so eclectic. And so I think for those wages to be present, it also has to be the recognition of what the job is and how much time you have to invest to be really good at it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many times I've joked about being a professional ski bum, but you know, it's, yeah, you know, you go to work and it's, all of us probably agree, it's a very hard job. We want it to translate into a career, and yeah, it's, yeah.
One of my favorite comments is when people say like, yeah, I thought about ski patrolling, but then I went and got a real job. And I'm like, oh my God.
So there's the similar question twice in here that I want to pose to you ladies. So I was saying earlier before we started, like I could carry beers up the mountain when I skin in the morning and hand them off to patrollers, but I don't think that's really helping your cause. I mean, maybe a little bit. But what can the general public or pass holders, like, what can we do to support you? Any ideas?
Number one, wear your mask and lift line.
Yeah.
Please don't duck rope lines. Please don't duck rope lines when we're doing avalanche control work.
Buy t-shirts at bigskyskipatrol.com. Yeah, we have a fund called the Dirt Bag Fund, and it pays for all of our woes.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I think a mutual respect thing, and hopefully this is something that we do worldwide. And I know with our last election, we saw more division, and it's definitely seems to be a problem in our world at this point, at least in our country for sure. But, you know, and I tend to be sometimes get very exhausted, and you have long days and long weeks, and sometimes I struggle with respecting the skier public, for some of the silly things that are done, or the fact that rope lines aren't minded to, or signage or whatever. And it goes both ways, but you guys can imagine at Squaw Valley, at Squallywood, we get a lot of disrespect from our skier public. And so it definitely needs to go both ways. But I think respecting, again, the professionalism, and Kari, you brought up a good point, we have to uphold a certain amount of professionalism in the workplace and in our careers to be warranted of that, right? And so for me, even though I'm tired, the respect thing, the mutual respect thing. But I think that's something, Sara, that I would ask is respect the people that are out there working in the trenches. They know what they're doing.
Say hi, how are you before you ask what's open.
Or when are you getting it open?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going to read this question. Currently, we're having issues with lack of trust and respect from some of our male leadership. Have you dealt with that before, and how do you approach the issue? Some examples include double checking the work of females that are equally as qualified, or discrediting safety concerns, and being told that we're overly cautious. Any great ideas?
I've never experienced that before.
Yeah, I think that when I have seen things like that just at different workplaces before, asking questions of the people who are maybe exhibiting that unconscious misogyny, and saying like, why did you feel that it was necessary to double check this person's work and not that person's work? Usually I found that direct confrontation is rarely productive, but kind of like asking probing questions and getting people to think like, did I even realize that I was doing that? Why was I doing that? That'll at least draw out maybe the unconscious bias that's going on. It doesn't address conscious bias, that's a separate issue, but I think most people in our workplaces they're rarely bad people. They just might unconsciously have some of these issues. And if you can question what those decisions that they're making are based in, you can kind of force them to have a little bit of a self-reckoning.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the farther along I move in this career, the more comfortable I am with my coworkers. And yeah, if someone feels the need to call me out and not one of my male coworkers, I'm like, I'm comfortable just asking them directly, like, oh, did you not trust my judgment? Or do you not think I was capable of doing that? Or why, and then they kind of, yeah, exactly like you just said, like, they're kind of like, oh, no, it's fine. And then you just got to kind of call them out on it, I think, a little bit. They just don't realize they're doing it.
I think
not always.
I think something that can help in terms of confronting it too is where those male mentors as well as those male allies come into place. Because I can almost guarantee that the men on your crew are noticing the same things, and having those allies bring it up may have more of an impact on those male leaders than a female bringing it up, or bringing it up as a team or a crew together. But really having those allies speak up and have your back with those issues can make a difference. And to be honest, some of those issues aren't solved. Like my first ski resort that I was a patrol director at, I ended up leaving mid-season because I made the realization I was never gonna get through to my boss, and he was never gonna treat me like a human being, and I needed to move elsewhere because of that. And so I think it's recognizing the tools to help provoke change, and then also for yourself recognizing when that change isn't going to happen and you need to find a healthier situation.
Yeah, one of the things that came up in our pre-discussion was around the culture, right? So each ski patrol seems to have a culture. And just to address one of the other comments of what's being done to support or encourage BIPOC women to step into this field. And Robin mentioned, like, there's been some issues with National Ski Patrol, and SheJumps has had a relationship with National Ski Patrol for a long time that we've had to reckon with as a result of some of those instances. And I think once again, like, sort of that piece of like there's often like this sort of like women and men, right? And then within women, within that group, there's this subgroup that can often be overlooked and can have even harder access and entry points. And so for all of us to do our piece, and making sure that we're not only, getting in the door, but then we're holding that door open, or we're making sure that everybody knows even where the door is located, because that's not always the case. And it's 7:59 and we end in 1 minute. Is there anybody who has something that they really just feel the need to shout out?
I've seen a lot of questions about should I even try and apply? Like, I'm intimidated to apply, and I would say definitely apply, go and try out. You can't be told no if you don't even go to show up at the tryouts. So if you're feeling self-doubt about your skiing or riding skills, if you're feeling self-doubt about your place within a patrol, maybe because you're a woman of color, maybe because you're a smaller woman, I would say try and find the courage in you to put yourself out there and see what you get back.
This is the best job ever. You have to chance it. You have to try.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you to all the panelists, and thank you to all the attendees for spending your night where you'd otherwise be out in public places with lots of other people. Oh wait, just kidding, it's COVID. You don't have anything else to do, but thank you so much for showing up. And if you enjoyed this and you want to see more from SheJumps, get involved, visit our website, find out what else we're doing. And sounds like everybody should go join Ski Patrol, or at least try out. And we should lobby hard for them to get raises. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.